Welcome to Meet the Candidate. Today we're joined by Don Oliphant. Welcome, Councilmember Oliphant. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've lived in the Queen Creek community, which I can't believe I'm going to say this, but almost 17 years now, come this fall. I live here with my husband and my 2 kids, and we just love it here. We built a house here, and we've moved one other time since then, and we just love this community.
That's great. 17 years, we've been here about the same time, so yeah. Quite a few changes over that time period. We'll
Just a few.
talk about those in just a minute, but tell us, so you've been on council since when?
Since 2010, I came on. That was my first go-around of council. And if you remember, that was right after kind of the economy and the downturn. So got onto council and had to reduce the staff just a little bit, but the town just kind of cruised along during that time period, and then re-elected again in 14, and then that's when things just started to pick up a little bit with some more activities, and then obviously 2018, a lot more activities.
So you've been involved, obviously, from the downturn through the boom times, and we'll talk a little bit more about your experience on council. Obviously, you've been on different boards and commissions, but outside of council, you do quite a bit as well. So what are some of those things?
Well, like I said, I love this community, and I have 2 teenagers, and so I've been very involved in volunteering at the schools. I've sat on various PTOs and booster clubs. I've also volunteered on some nonprofit boards here throughout the town, Queen Creek Relay for Life. It was with the Women's Auxiliary, which is now just the Auxiliary, and just love volunteering and getting involved with different groups and stuff around the town.
So between the kids and those activities and then serving on the council, you've been very busy over that time span. But let's go a little bit deeper onto your time on council.
Okay.
So you started in 2010. We were entering the recession, big reduction in staff and construction, a few other odds and ends. But tell us about some of the highlights that stand out with you from that entire time period.
From the earlier time, from
all the way
around
through.
there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, when I first came on and just the reduction of staff, you know, obviously that was a little heartbreaking to have to do that, but it really honed in on some of those departments, and we really got to the essentials that we needed. And then as the economy grew and the town grew and the people started to come, we were able to add some of that staff back in and grow some more of our programs. And now, you know, seeing what we are today, it's hard to imagine what it was like in 2010 when I first came on, and even just a few years after that, when we started to pick back up, we thought, wow, this is really growth here. And realizing what the growth really is now, what were we voted the #1, the best place to raise a family, right? So, I mean, we all know that, you know, we all knew that from way back when. And so just, you know, just seeing some of the great things come into town. We, you know, as you know, we have big box stores coming in, but we have mom and pop restaurants that are still wanting to come, coffee shops that are still wanting to come. So it's really an exciting time to be in Queen Creek as a resident, or, you know, for me on council, just to see the growth and just to know where we came from. And some of the struggles that we had back then, which we thought we had some growth struggles then. So we're really just taking it day by day, planning out for the future, but taking actions day by day, especially with roads and, you know, our housing and all of that kind of stuff. So it all kind of comes together.
Right, roads, top of mind, and so there's some that would say we got to be building faster, and you know, they'll do whatever to build roads faster. But tell us about your experience with the road plan, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, if we could just snap our fingers and have all the roads done, I think everybody would agree that let's do that. But since that's not an option to do that, we have to be strategic, right, on where our roads are going to be improved. Not only are we building new roads, But because our community is in the phases to where now we're starting to have to improve some of the older roads that we do have, it's a balancing act. So I get questioned quite a bit, why can't we do this road and why can't we do this road? Well, if you have 2 or 3 north-south roads and you're doing them at the same time, nobody's moving in the community. So we really try to structure those in a way where we work with partners like our school districts, because you have to remember that the buses still have to get the kids, and what do we have, 6, 7 school districts in our community, so we can't block roads off where they're trying to get those kids to school. We have businesses that need to stay open and operate, and so on my time here on council, roads has been a big priority for not only myself, but for my colleagues. And we have no problem spending the money on the roads. You know, it costs millions and millions of dollars just for roads. And I don't think people really realize the impact and how expensive that really is. But roads are top of mind for us. And we are residents in this community too, and we have to drive on those roads and get to meetings and get our kids wherever they need to go. So roads is obviously a very important thing. And I think over the past, 3 or 4 years, we've done a big jump start on our roads to kind of, I don't want to say we're all the way caught up, but at least to kind of catch us up a little bit to where we need to be going forward.
Yeah, I think during that time period, the bridge on Rittenhouse was probably one of the major
Right.
things, taking care of that choke point so the rest of Rittenhouse could be finished. That was a pretty big project. So.
And that was a big improvement from those of us that were here that would be stopped at that intersection as well
Right.
for the train. So yeah, that helps with the flow of traffic. Certainly that one does.
So along those lines, we have the 24 coming up, and that should be opening at least as an interim roadway soon. And,
Right.
and how do you see that affecting traffic?
Oh, that's going to be just a great option for our residents to have. I mean, those of us that are on the east side, and I'm on the east side of the town now, I used to be on the west side, and those of us on the east side and even some of the Santan Valley residents there on Ironwood and east, you know, in that area that don't want to take the Ironwood route, but that's going to alleviate a lot of that north-south jam that we have on Ellsworth as well as Ironwood. And as you know, if one of those roadways has an accident, it pushes everybody, you only have one other roadway to go down, and then that's when it becomes overcrowded. And so having a couple more north-south options for people to go, it's just going to be really amazing for our residents.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to that. Another thing you touched on was the planning. And so Queen Creek has an award-winning general plan. One of the things that works out well for our business community is being able to see where everything is going to go, and then having council stay true to that. And so over your time, there have been a few tweaks, but how do you see the general plan, and how do you think it will be going through the next 4 years?
I can appreciate the general plan because it gives you a guideline of those things that you need to be focusing on and working towards. And like you said, there had been a couple changes. That's why we need to make sure that we stay current with the industry and current when we get those studies done to make sure that we're not too heavy in one area as opposed to another area. So to me, the general plan is some guidelines. It helps our developers, it helps our businesses know what areas of town and where things are going to kind of go, you know, and be placed. And so we update that. That's out on the website for our residents and any businesses that, you know, want to come into the community. They obviously can look that up and see kind of where our vision is and where we're going from that. And like I said, I don't mind making small changes to that if it makes sense, you know, to do that. If that's what our industry experts are telling us, then that's something that we need to look at.
Seems like there's going to be a lot of push to try and get more residential in perhaps taking out commercial or industrial spaces, and how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it really depends on the area. And when we have items, that come to us on the agenda and at the council meetings, I really try to look at them individually, as well as how does it fit into that area of scope, right? And so there might be times where it doesn't make sense to take out the industrial or the business and put housing in, or if it's too heavy on this side and not that side. So for me, I take it all individually as it comes through. Like we said, the general plan is a guide, but we really need to look at that to make sure that we're continuing to fit those things in where they make sense.
Another area of planning that comes up quite a bit is the parks plan. And so just before the pandemic, we were able to open Mansell Carter Oasis Park. And now council has named East Park Family Frontier Park. And it'll start under construction soon. How do you see the parks plan, and what do the parks mean for the community? There's a contingency who feels that it's not money well spent, and there's others who would like to see all of the parks built at once.
Right. So for me, parks has always been an important part of a community. And so even before I had children, you'd always seek out where you could go to the park, where you could go ride a bike, where you could go, have a picnic. To me, parks are part of the community, just like having great roads, to me, having great parks. And as we've been so focused all these years on making sure we're getting the roads somewhat caught up, right? Again, we're not completely caught up, but getting those kind of more on the front end than the back end, our parks kind of took a back seat to that. Like you said, we were able to open our one new park, and I have heard nothing but great things about that park, and they're excited about seeing phase 2, which is going to be coming online here as well. To me, you need parks. You need parks because it is community. That's where you meet neighbors. That's where you meet your fellow residents of this community. And so to be supportive of bonds that will go out and obtain money so we're able to build parks, I think is a great thing for this community. And when I drive by Desert Mountain Park or Founders Park, and you just see kids out there playing, and you see dogs, them walking their dogs, and people just having a good time, to me that's what a community is. And that's, you look for a house, but you also look what's around you. What is there parks nearby? And I know a lot of times we're like, is there a grocery store? Those are, to me, those are things that are right up in there if you choose, if you want to locate here into Queen Creek or not. And then some of our residents here are saying our parks are too crowded. We need another park. And as you know, in the Parks Master Plan, we have that on the east side, and that's going to be coming online here too in the next couple of years. So that's pretty exciting for especially those residents, because that's where we have the most of our growth, is on the eastern side of our community now. And so I'm really excited to be supportive of that park and to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, it'll certainly add several new ball fields and soccer fields, which will be great for the number of kids that we have here.
Right.
Along those lines, we have that area along the north corridor that's right now, it's reserved industrial, and there's some concern about turning it into residential, and it'll have an impact on the airport. Phoenix Mesa Gateway. How do you view Phoenix Mesa Gateway? What does it mean to the community, and what do we do about preserving those areas?
I love having an airport that close to us. When I was younger, I lived in Phoenix, which was right by the airport over there. And I think as a kid, you always love seeing the airplanes and stuff go by. It's a different perspective when you're an adult and you have a home and you see the airplanes go by, right? But I think it's a great value for our residents because we are so removed from Phoenix Sky Harbor. And I look at it as an asset. Yeah, it's not located directly inside of Queen Creek, but I look at it as an asset. And I love the partnership that we have with the airport on different types of things. I know our mayor sits on the board for that. And so I was just talking to a resident the other day that didn't even realize that's the airport was that close to us. And so I'm like, wow, they always knew it was somewhere around, but they didn't realize how close it was to the community. So, they're great partners of ours, and I think it just brings a good value, to our residents. And as far as that area, again, I know that they oppose some of the building that we have approved for houses and apartments and different types of things, because if it's in the flight pattern or in the certain area where you can have them built, but they don't recommend that they're built in there. But I really think that just puts that on that resident or that homeowner to know that you sign the documents, that there's an airport close by, and that if you choose that's where you want to live, then that's where you want to live.
So with the development that's coming on the south side of the airport, they're projecting billions of dollars of economic impact and tens of thousands of additional jobs. And so the areas that Queen Creek has zoned industrial, would you say that it's going to be important for keeping those, or are we going to pick up any of that growth on the north side of Queen Creek?
Well, I would think that we could work in collaboration of that, depending on what types of businesses go in there, the airport, what types of businesses, in the industrial area of Queen Creek. I just think there's so many opportunities for growth for those businesses, and maybe there's a heavier business on the airport and then a subcontractor or a business that could help with, in Queen Creek could help that business that's built over there in the airport area. I mean, you just don't know the possibilities. But what I'm excited about on those two things is the opportunities for our residents to have some more jobs and to have those options for residents that don't have to travel so much outside of the community for work, possibly, depending on what those jobs are. I hear that a lot from some of our residents. They would like to work closer to home, or some of our kids that are getting ready to graduate would really like not a fast food job or not a job in retail, right? And so maybe a little bit, a job where they can apply a lot of their skills and some of the technical stuff that they learn, from graduation and that kind of stuff. So I really see those working together.
And you mentioned, that job growth and having those businesses come. It's important that we maintain a business-friendly environment so that we can get those kind of jobs other than, just the narrow retail type of jobs.
Right.
So how do you see, what makes a business-friendly council, what maintains a business-friendly environment, and how do you see that?
Well, for me, and I think we've done a good job over the last few years, is really getting rid of the red tape that some of the businesses were having to go through to get their businesses up and going, right? And so just making sure the process is a smooth process, rather they need to build a building from ground up, or they're doing tenant improvements, they're coming in and taking over. Just the town just making that as smooth of a process as they can. To me, that's helping them be successful. They have invested in this community, and I understand that as soon as a purchase is made, they want to be up and their doors open, right? That's when they're going to make their money, when their doors open. So how can we get their doors open for them as quickly as we can, moving through whatever requirements are, whatever they need to go through, but not having heavy regulation. And I know we've gotten rid of some of the stuff over the last couple years to make that smoother for them. Unnecessary regulations, we don't need those. We've looked at those, cleaned those up a little bit, and we just want to make sure it's a safe and secure, obviously, building, not only for the community that comes in, but for the business owner and their employees that they bring to the table, because they have invested in our community. So we want to make sure, you know, we're on the same page and we work together. Our staff at the town works together as a team with them. So.
Well, you've certainly been on council during a growth period, and we appreciate that. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the community that we haven't covered?
Nothing I can think of. Just, you know, this Queen Creek is just a great place to live, to work, to recreate, you know, and it's growing. So maybe just one thing for residents is it's just going to take some time on the roads, as we see, but we're working on it. The parks are coming, we're working on it. You know, just know that we have our residents in mind, and we have our businesses in mind in everything and anything that we do. It just takes a little bit of time to do that, and we really do think strategically, and we really do have our community's best interest when it comes to the decisions that we make. So.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate your time being here with us today, and best of luck in the election.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.